At the end of the day, I refuse to let anyone sway me from my overall goal. The only person that's going to sit there and be blamed for me not getting there is me.
Hey friends, this is the Next Level Glam podcast, and I'm Glam Gal. Thank you for joining me as I discuss all things transformation inside and out with my sisters in Christ. Pull up a chair, it's about to go next level.
Hey sisters, welcome back to the Next Level Glam podcast, where we're always saved by not giving our lives to Christ, but because Christ gave his life for us. That is the truth that grounds us as believers. For there's nothing that this flesh could ever do to earn eternal life. It is a free gift. Last week, I know that I told you that we should not be going on this journey alone. Once you're a believer and you've been sealed forever, you're never going to be alone. So we talked about bringing Jesus on those difficult parts of our journey because he's going to develop the patience needed, along with other qualities we'll probably discuss in the future about getting you closer to what you're shooting for. That being said, I do believe that we need to talk a little bit about growing our own backbone because we kind of, in the other hand, need to do this alone. Whether it's our walk with the Lord or a diet we choose to implement, the workouts we grind out, or even the choices that just go against the grain in the world today. It can at times be and feel like a very lonely path. We kind of need to prepare for that very real truth. Otherwise, it'll take you back that you're finding yourself kind of standing out like a lone reed. And if you're not prepared for it, it can be a huge stumbling block that you keep tripping over as you go about changing whatever you're trying to change. How many times have you joined a program with friends, a book club, a trivia night, a Bible study, only to encounter disappointment at the first sign of their lack of commitment, whether it was legitimate or not? I mean, how soon after do you start something like that where you're encountering that issue where it starts to like seep in to our own motivation and willpower and like sap it? The fact is, in those situations, it's our own fault because we can't rely on anyone else to get us where we're going except us. We have to have that mindset that there's no one else around us, that we're not dependent on anybody else to make things happen. You can have all the people around you cheerleading you on, but ultimately you need to make the effort. When I started to implement healthier choices in my household, it shook things up quite a bit. I heard things like, I don't like green food. Or when you're eating that cheeseburger without the bun, you're looked at like a weirdo, like you're missing out, even if it's because you're trying to bring the sexy back. And I understand that there are a lot of people out there listening, a lot of my friends actually, who are single and they don't have a partner or a spouse or anything. But even so, you know that there are people in your life that you're very close to that have an impact about the direction that your life goes in. You lean on them for, your motivation and your determination and to keep pushing you on. So I don't want you to sit there and feel like this is just for married couples when I say that, the people around me had an issue with me making a change. When I first started working out, I didn't want to do that in front of anybody, actually, like not even my husband. I was too embarrassed, to be honest. And he really didn't need necessarily help from me to the extent that I did. We all have our different struggles. But even so, even the most naturally fit person needs some sort of discipline. It's just a matter of time as we age that things start to take over. And if you don't implement it soon enough, you can come out the other side like 10 steps behind. So, as someone who cares for him, as my workout routine advanced, I just realized I wanted to take him with me. I wanted him to join me. Those long winter months here in the state that I live in, a lot of people kind of give up on being active, and it is really hard. I'm even seeing at the stage that I'm in now, how incredibly affected I am by the cold and the dark. And it takes a lot to rise above. And I really thought that we could put our brains together and hold each other accountable. And it's been a really interesting journey. But there was a time there where the pushing him was actually taking away the energy that I needed to do to keep myself accountable. It was like pulling teeth, and it was hard to not let it affect me. His drive didn't match my own, and I let it derail me more than a few times. But now I treat it as a bonus because I truly walk alone in that matter, whether it's, deciding to not partake in, the family dessert night, or whether I decide to get up and go up for a walk on my own or do the workout. Because yes, you can drag people along with you. You just know that you're going to have to be dragging yourself when people let you down, and they will, because they're human. I mean, grace, we're all human, but you can't be dependent on a fallible source to get you to where you're going. I think it's really wonderful to join support groups, communities, especially online, that have the same ideals that you do. It's really, really encouraging. But I've always had my biggest breakthroughs when I leaned into going it alone. I have a friend that I've known for many, many years who's always been an inspiration to me for many reasons. At times, I've been kind of sad that we live so far from one another. It just seems natural that we would like link up and go on our daily walks together and all of that. But the fact is, we do live far apart. And as much as it would have been nice to have that kind of accountability partner, I honestly think it would have torn at our relationship because I know I couldn't commit to the level of her commitment. And there's no shame in that because we're all starting in different places and we all have like a different makeup. So it's kind of for the best that that's not the case. I know for a fact I would have been committed to the idea of her like pulling me along instead of me getting up on my own 2 feet and establishing what works for me. There have been times in our relationship where she'll ask me to do something, like a 21-day detox diet or something like that, that she wanted to know if I wanted to do with her. And as much as I wanted to impress her and support her by doing it, I knew I couldn't commit to it. And I've had to honor myself and just say no. I had no desire to go that route. And she moved on. She wasn't offended or anything. I think she appreciated my honesty. Doing something because someone else brings it up really doesn't lead you anywhere. I feel like it needs to be an organic experience of you finding out what works for you, what you enjoy doing, whether it's someone even asking you to do a Bible study course or something like that and do it with them. I think that's wonderful. But if you're not in a place to learn and grow, if you're not in that same place, it doesn't really pay for you to do it. It becomes more of a willpower thing versus like a Christ fueled thing. Even if that pressure whispers in your ear that you should because you feel like sometimes you might be left behind, that's a whole other discussion about being left behind for what? Like in homeschool life, like a lot of people, parents, whoever, will ask you, aren't you afraid that she's going to fall behind? And it's like, fall behind who? Fall behind what? Some normal averaged expectancy from, the government or from this school or from someone else's expectations? It's like we need to know what's best for us and go after that. I'm all about encouraging you guys to go with God and go after your own goals, your own way. We need to blaze our own trail. Every single day, you need to remind yourself it's you against you. We need to rely on ourselves and ourselves alone to get that needle to move. Having outside sources to kind of gauge ourselves can be beneficial, especially as time goes on and we grow in the confidence of like what we're doing and showing up for ourselves. But initially, there needs to be that time that you show yourself that you are going to drink the water today. You are going to go for that walk today. You are going to do that workout today. You are going to make your own food today. You're going to try that new thing, read your word today. You need to give yourself some time to show yourself a track record and build confidence off that. You're showing up for yourself no matter what. You need to be able to fall on your duff and have no one else to blame but you. When we start setting the groundwork for our transformation, we need to stop with the excuses of, I'm going to start that soon, but I got to wait for this person to start this certain program. It needs to be 60 degrees, or Sundays don't work for me, or I'm waiting for my husband to go on that walk, or, my partner won't eat what I'm eating. Start today. Go alone. Eat what you need to eat and rise above the temptation to break the oaths that you've made to yourself. We are the ones responsible for the change that we want to see in our lives. And like I said, when we start to build that confidence, the more we are witnessing not just the outside change, but the inside, where we realize we're honoring what we want for ourselves, what we've set out for ourselves to do. Along the journey, sometimes people are going to look at you a little weird. You're going to feel like you're missing out. But sometimes that's the cost of leveling up. Sometimes you have to leave people behind. Sometimes you need to leave cycles behind, toxic trends, bad habits. You know, I work in a salon environment. It's all women. One of my favorite movies growing up was Grease. I absolutely loved Frenchie in that movie, the girl with the pink hair. And I love that whole genre of hairdressers in the past, even all the way back, and how glamorous they were. It was like they had this standard for beauty. They cared about their skincare and their hair and what went into their mouths and fashion and all of it. And it's like it doesn't exist anymore. The standard of even how we hairdressers hold ourselves has changed dramatically. So, like where I work, it's like sweatpants are allowed, greasy hair is allowed, no makeup is allowed. Just the overall presentation that they don't take care of themselves, it's allowed. It's been an intentional work for me to go in and set my own standard, regardless of the culture. If it meant having to be perceived as the odd man out, well, then so be it. Because I take pride in myself, I take pride in my work, I take pride in my presentation. Like I'm gonna wear makeup, you know? I'm gonna bring healthy foods and snacks to work with me and not use that time to go along with the group and order greasy food or order sugary coffees every day. You have to keep it a focus. Don't get lost in the surrounding decisions of people who aren't even on the same level that you're at. Every time I leave work and I didn't partake in something that I know wasn't going to take me to the next level, that's a huge win. At the end of the day, I refuse to let anyone sway me from my overall goal. The only person that's going to sit there and be blamed for me not getting there is me. So ultimately, it's changing your mindset that you're missing out and that you're actually getting ahead. You're tapping into the fact that you are hardcore. Once you realize that these little things that you've put in place for yourself to honor and support and go forward and how good it feels on the inside, how it affects the outside, it becomes easier to say no and ultimately not care about outside influence of any kind, whether it be at your job, in your home, in your marriage, in your family, in your friends groups. I feel like the best part that I've noticed is you become someone that people look to lead the way. It is all about lifting each other up and leading the way, and we should feel honored that he has given us the strength to do so. Ultimately, guys, you can't force someone to go with you, and somebody can't force you to go with them, but you can force yourself to show up for yourself and be a light to others who just may need to see the success so they can have the courage to go after the same in their own journey, in their own desires for themselves. We realize that what we're doing is working, that our hard work is having an effect and an affect, that the main principle of it all has been you showing up for you. You realize that you have grown the backbone to do all the things that you said that you were going to do, whether it's just 2 things on your list, but you know that you can get to the other things on that list because you've already started kind of chipping away at these goals. You didn't depend on anybody else to make you healthy. You didn't depend on anybody else to make those hard choices for you, to get your booty on the gym mat, to read the word every day, to hydrate yourself every day, to invest in yourself every day, to take care of yourself every day. All of a sudden, you realize that you've come to the other side. The person that you had to fight to care about, you, that you didn't deem worthy, is in fact worthy, and it's non-negotiable. You are worthy. You are killing it. You are stepping into a new territory, one that you won't allow anyone to invade or budge or crap on. You're standing firm in what you know to be true, that you can count on you. It's you versus you. So I guess I'd like to ask you today, are you depending on others to reach your goals? What are some of the changes that were hardest for you to make to see the changes that you wanted to see starting out on your journey? And what kind of boundaries do you need to implement to see success on your journey? I want to thank you guys again for joining me here for another episode of the Next Level Glam podcast. It is such a blessing and honor to speak to you guys weekly. If this has blessed you at all today, guys, could you share it with a friend who needs to hear it? I would so appreciate it. I hope I see you guys next time here on the Next Level Glam podcast. I know I'm looking forward to it. And until next time, guys, grow in His grace.